Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Little Marketing Podcast, where we provide you, Australian small business owners, with smart and tangible marketing advice to help you achieve some great results. So in today's episode, I'm super excited because we're speaking with someone who is outside of the marketing space, but is in the throes of Australian small business owners. Our guest today, Rani Gandha, is a partner at law firm Turnbull Hill Lawyers, based in sunny Newcastle, and I can't wait, to get into our chat today. Now, if you're a first-time listener to the Little Marketing Podcast, who is Little Marketing? Well, we're a marketing consultancy that's been providing marketing plans and advice to small businesses for over 15 years. We've learned so much about marketing, about business, and business owners. And we know that it's more than just a business. And I'm sure with Rani today, you'll hear a bit more of that, that it's not just a business, but it's your livelihood. So based on all that, our podcasts are in line with the Little Marketing vision of helping business owners just like you achieve the best results for your organization. And that's why I'm excited to welcome Rani today to this episode to provide, I guess, a different perspective on small businesses, what they're saying, how they're acting, and how it'll allow small business owners listening to ensure that they're not alone. So, Rani, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No worries. My pleasure. So you've just come back from holidays, is that right?
Yeah, I went to the Northern Territory. It was amazing. Highly recommend it.
Whereabouts did you go?
We went to Darwin, we went to Kakadu, we went to Litchfield, we went to Katherine, Nitmaluk, and then back to Darwin. So it was really good.
Yeah, wow. Sounds like something I'll have to put on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess by way of introduction, maybe tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Turnbull Hill Lawyers, and what you do, and I guess who you do it for.
Yep. So Turnbull Hill Lawyers, we're a general practice, and what that means is we cover most areas of law. We don't all do everything. So, for example, I focus on wills and estates, on commercial or business law, and on property. But then we run in teams. So we've got a family law team, we've got a criminal law team, we've got a contested estate team. And basically the idea is that, and we're a multi-generational firm, so we'll sort of look after grandparents to parents to kids to a variety of clients. And you come and see us, and then we sort of move you to which area of the firm you've got that can assist you.
Yeah, okay. And how long have you been in the business for?
So I've been a partner there for 7 years. I've been at Turnbull Hill for 9 years, and I've been a solicitor for 18 years.
18?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you know your stuff then.
In theory.
Yeah, very good. And the business itself, how long has that been practicing for?
I think it's at about 52 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good stint. And the team size there?
We vary between, say, 45 and 50.
Okay.
People coming, going, things like that, but that's probably where we comfortably sit.
Yeah, cool. And you're based up in beautiful Newcastle or Charlestown. So is that the main head office, or are there other offices outside of that?
Yep. So our main office is in Charlestown. We also have an office in East Maitland, which is where I'm today.
Okay.
So we just found that we were getting more and more clients from the Hunter region and want to be a little bit closer to them. So Maitland sits about 30 minutes north of Newcastle. And so we kind of had those two major offices there's someone always there and serviced. But what we also found, we do have an appointment only office in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
But what we found with a lot of our Sydney people was it was just easier to do things via Zoom or email or technology. And then if they do want to, say, come and see us, they can get a lovely trip up the M1, have a nice lunch somewhere. And then, so we've sort of scaled back our physical presence, but then I do heaps of work for expats. So if you're in Singapore and you need to sell a house or buy a house or all of those things, and we do it all usually via some kind of technology. But I still love seeing clients face to face, or at least Zoom.
Has that transitioned because of COVID, and it's just become a little bit easier for everybody?
Look, we were always a firm pretty dedicated to technology, and we'd been using it for a long time, but it definitely went into overgear with COVID. And what we found were um, like elderly clients that had traditionally always wanted to come in. What happened with COVID is they wanted to FaceTime their grandkids and they wanted to Zoom in their family. So they just became really good at the technology. And now they're the ones they're like, no, we can just Zoom. It's like, well, you can come in. And they're like, no, we're good. What helped in the property side is everything is electronic. We don't need a wet signature on anything. So again, if people want to come in, we're happy to see them. But we found with just families and lifestyle and everyone having, a lot of our clients obviously had their own businesses. It was easier for them not to come in. But we still, it's sort of trending back a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think particularly if it's if someone comes into the office, they've made time for you, you've set aside time for them, you don't have the distractions of emails popping up or your phone binging or anything like that. And sometimes, whereas in the beginning we found that via Zoom you could get a lot done quicker, I find we get sometimes a better product if we can do face to face, because everyone's just really focused and in the room. So yeah.
Okay. And I wonder if that's industry related. So I know that with us as a business, we've always wanted that face-to-face time, best way to build relationships, best way to get things done and make decisions. And I think as COVID hit, people didn't have a choice. So as you said, grandparents were using Zoom and other products. So I think our clients and potential clients have kind of been educated by default that that's the way to go. And I feel like our teams now can have 6, 7, 8 meetings in a day, whereas before that they couldn't do that. Clients have to come in or park, or the consultants would be going out to them. So I feel like we're getting more done, and we're still getting FaceTime. It's just virtually. So I guess it's probably different for every industry, but I feel like we can get more. Our teams can get more done and see more clients.
I think the face component is really important. It's different to a phone call. And it's definitely different to emails. I think just being able to read someone, you can tell when someone's happy and they like what you're saying. You can tell when they don't. And sometimes we have to say stuff that people don't like. But I tend to pick up on a lot more face-to-face, or at least Zooming. One thing I would say, though, is when someone comes into your office, that to me would be, if possible, the ideal. It's just, I think, for us a better experience, for them a better experience. But again, I would far rather use the technology and actually be able to help someone than just go, no, it's this way or not. I don't think that really works for anyone.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dig in a little bit with the I guess businesses and small businesses that you deal with. So is there a type of small business that you deal with, or type of industry that your clients are spread across or focused on?
No. So I run a commercial team, and there's sort of 3 senior lawyers in it and me. And we've got quite a variety. We do a lot of work for medical practitioners,
Okay.
a lot of engineering, and then it's just a really wide variety, from hairdressers to egg farmers to other farmers but rather than the actual type of business, it's probably really different to your area. It's not so much the type of business as the document that they need. So if it's a lease, it's a lease. We need to know enough about their business to know what the premises needs to be and some of the requirements. But it's doing a lease, whether it's a lease, if it's a commercial lease or a retail lease, it's the same. We're looking for the same things. We're looking at the same type of legal document. So it doesn't matter, other than making sure the usage is right. Same with structures. So how you're going to protect your assets, whether you're going to use a trust, whether you're going to use companies. Again, it's understanding probably more about that person and that person's family than anything that the business is involved in. because how you protect someone like a business owner is less about what they do. What they do is what they do, and there could be an inherent risk in it. It's how you control their structures and how you fund their structures. That's where the real, so I mean, basically our value is advice, and it's not so much that we specialize in this particular area.
Sure. So with that advice, so how often do the clients come to you when it's, and they want advice in terms of structures when it's too late versus versus forward planning? Like what does that look like? What's that split look like?
Yeah, I would say the ration, it would probably be 30-70, 30% coming to us when we can really add value, and about 70, actually that's not quite right. I'd say 30% is upfront, like we want to do this, tell us how to do it. The next 30% would be, we've already started, but we can still tweak and fix up and say, okay, well, you've given it a crack. Now your business is going to the next level. Why don't you do this? And it's still pretty cheap to move things around, and you don't have stamp duty and all of those issues. And then there's 40% that we're like, look, it is what it is. You know, we can help defend you, and we can tidy a couple of stuff up. But if you think about a liquidator, golden rule is they can go back about 5 years. So if you haven't, if nothing's happened and you come and see us and then we set it up and nothing happens for another 6 years, it's probably pretty good. But
yeah,
when you come to us and you are about to be sued, then it's a bit, we can help you, but we can't help you with your structure. We can just mitigate the losses, basically.
So if we talk about leases for a sec, you mentioned leases. So that's, you know, I would say for a fair, you know, at least half of the small businesses across Australia would probably have some type of lease, I'm assuming. What are the I guess pitfalls or things that you see in leases that business owners should be wary of or should always kind of push back on? Is there a commonality that you see or something that they often miss that you pick up on?
Yeah, so first is your term of lease and your options. So if you think about, if you're starting up a new business, you don't know, everyone hopes their business is going to be brilliant. But statistics will show you that not every idea, and even if the idea is great, for whatever reason, businesses tend to fail. And if they're going to fail, they'll probably fail in their first 3 to 5 years. So if you lock yourself into a premises for, say, a 6-year lease, and you fail at year 2, you've got 4 years. You've got to try and find someone to take that, or you've got a liability there for 4 years. But on the other hand, if you go, I'm going to play it really safe and have a 6-month or a year lease, and at the end of that time, you've actually started to do really well, that's not a point where you want to move your business and have all that expense. So that's where I think people need to understand the option, like the use of options. So you might say, okay, I'm going to do 2 years plus a 2-year option plus a 2-year option. And that what that means is that you're locked in for 2 years. Then at 2 years or probably 18 months, you can go, actually, this is going pretty good. Let's gamble and do another 2 years. And then you know that you can be in that premises for up to 6 years. So if you can sort of work that out, is good. The other thing we see is people don't understand personal guarantees. So they set up their company, they go, yay, it's my company. But then under their lease, they give a personal guarantee. So if anything happens, there's a default. The other clause I think people don't really think about is the make good clause, which is at the end, do you have to paint it? Do you have to refit it? Those sort of things. So there is a New South Wales standard lease, which is pretty fair. And then what lawyers like I and my team do, and other lawyers do, is we kind of amend it. So it's probably just, as I said, it's probably one of your biggest commitments that you make. So I would suggest getting it reviewed, and that you can actually push back and ask for changes.
So the advice is get advice.
It is. But if you're not going to get advice, just read it. You'd be surprised how many people sign things and they haven't read it. So do read it. If it's a standard law society lease, it's legible. So that would be my first advice. And the second is just to think about, maybe plan out your business a bit and kind of go, well, how long do I realistically think I need this business before I know if it's good or not, and try and match your term up to that, and try not to give a guarantee.
Yeah, cool. And I'm glad you mentioned the word planning, because we'll talk about that in a second. So just for listeners that maybe have just started out their business, can you just give a 30-second summary on what personal guarantee means and the impact that it can have on them?
Okay, so if you enter the lease if I enter a lease as Rani Gandha, it doesn't matter, because it's my I'm the legal entity. It's my personal liability. So if something goes wrong, they can say sue me for a common term, and then they can come after, my house, my car, money I have in the bank. They can even get an order so that they can take money out of my future wages. So basically,
Right.
if I stuff up or something goes wrong, that liability is going to be connected to me. If you have a company, that company is a different legal entity to you. So if, for example, you enter in as a company and something goes wrong, if there's no other assets in the company, there's that old saying, you can't get blood out of a stone. But what landlords want is they want a person, because a person is going to have to keep on going. They're going to have to get a job somewhere, and it's going to be far easier to claim against them. So that personal guarantee means, rather than just having an entity that maybe has no assets, you've got someone who's human, and in theory, even if you are in trouble, you're going to want to work hard to get out of that trouble and not go through bankruptcy.
So the goal is to avoid any personal guarantee.
Yeah, if you can. You're not going to be able to with a bank. So banks, if you want the money, you're just going to have to sign up to whatever term they want, and it will always be in their favour. Don't be fooled by their lovely marketed logos that make you feel warm and fuzzy.
Absolutely.
They're not.
Yep.
So our structures will work in a lot of circumstances, but it will never work with a bank.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess you've highlighted there a couple of things for people to I guess keep an eye out when it comes to leases. What's some of the big, I guess, pain points that small businesses come to you with or discuss with you on a daily basis? Is there a couple that stand out for you?
Employees.
Okay.
Employees are probably the biggest. Just getting people to do what you expect them to do. Also knowing what you can ask someone to do, and I'm not a huge not an employment lawyer. My partner Gavin is, but having a lot of employees has made me learn, and also I've asked Gavin quite a lot of times. But just that there's a lot more you can do with employees than you think. And just that would probably be the biggest issue. Following up by that is being paid. And that often comes down to terms and conditions, or we getting money up front, or those sort of things. So I'd say they're probably the biggest things of problems that people come to us with.
Yeah, and over the years I've seen that when businesses start, all they care about is getting that first sale, or getting that product line out there, or just delivering for the customer or for the client. The last thing they think about is getting paid. Yeah, because they just want to do the right thing. They want to give value. They want the customer to be happy. They want to keep the customer. They're not thinking about collecting money, and that's a really bad habit that small businesses get into. All of that should work together. Collecting money and the value that you provide. Like, you should be getting paid. When we go to Coles, we have to pay before we walk out.
Yeah, and it's who does it really well? Are fitness people. So if you go to like Pilates or anything like that, they get all your money up front. You turn up, you don't turn up, that's fine. I've got clients that run bakeries. You turn up and you buy your bread, or you don't get your bread, or the egg farmer who has a subscription. So they're really good at getting paid, but it's the service side where, I'll just do this for free or I'll add this in. They're not so good at getting paid. One of the hardest, and I'm still not great at it, but the most valuable things I've learned is to say no and to let a client go, which goes against every fiber of my body. I'm like, no, I can do anything. I can help anyone. And now I've learned over the years, no, I can't. I can try, but there are certain clients that are not worth it to our business, or clients that just don't value what we do because they're not gonna pay us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very hard.
It is, and I think business owners struggle with that all the time. They just want to make money. They want to keep customers happy, but you're in business generally. One of the main reasons is to make money. So if you're not receiving money, what's the point? Let them go. Have a client or a customer that's going to value what you do, your time, your expertise. Tell us quickly about the egg farmer. I'm interested in that egg farmer that's on a subscription model. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. So Sarah, her business is called Just Been Laid, and that's based on. I'm sure she won't mind me. It's all advertising.
Yeah.
So she's a 5th generational farmer. And she's done amazing things. She's done, her master's, all of these things in business, been to Oxford, but always wanted to come back to the family property, which was for memory cattle, and sort of was trying to look for a way to come back but not run cattle, because that's quite expensive and difficult. So she came up with eggs. So her basically you get the eggs within 48 hours of them being laid, so just been laid, and you go on a subscription where it's every week, and then she's partnered with all these cool coffee shops, and so her distribution network is like coffee shops or organic shops. So you can basically go in, get your coffee, pick up your dozen of eggs, and off you go. And it's good for the coffee shops, because usually when people are coming in to get their eggs, they're buying something.
That is so cool. And where is she based?
She's based in, I guess the farm is in Gresford, which is up in the Hunter Valley.
So she doesn't even deliver it to the end user. She just distributes via the coffee shops.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cost effective, isn't it? Smart.
Yeah, she's a smart girl.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and the way it's like her eggs aren't the cheapest eggs, but they're extremely fresh. They last a long time, and her marketing, she was very clever in it. It's a really colourful box, so she kind of designed it on the basis, how you give someone flowers. It looks so cool that you would give someone like a dozen eggs.
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting gift.
Yeah, but I love eggs, and I'll only use her eggs.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So I guess we like to keep everything positive here at Little Marketing. So there's obviously, people read the news, pick up a paper, lots of negative talk at the moment for all different reasons. What are your optimistic clients doing or saying at the moment to just plow through and ignore the noise?
I think it's back to basics. So I went through the GFC back in 2008, and I was in securities law at the time, so financial law. And I remember an older practitioner said sometimes you need to just be seen to doing things. But I think, with the exception of insolvency practitioners, so liquidators, everyone's had a pretty amazing 2 years. It's sort of been just, just a very unique market. And I know from property, it's been just off the chain. Now it's just going back to the basics of, what you do, bed down your good employees, make sure that your team's right, and going back really to those smart practices, which is look at your model, say what's working, say what's not working, be brave enough to change the stuff that's not, it's not a bad time to be having some tough conversations, because in a really buoyant market, no one wants to give you anything. So the example is, say, someone buying and selling a house. For the last 2 years, when we've looked after people selling their house, whatever the purchaser's request is, it's pretty much no. You want to buy it as is. I put a clause in that basically said the seller can take whatever they want and leave whatever they want. And because of the market, we were able to do that. Now it's switched. It's like, okay, we'll consider this. But it's going back to the basics. And the biggest thing for, I think, regardless of your industry, is not to panic and just really focus on the things you do well. And, I know everyone's going crazy about interest rates, but to be honest, they're getting to where they should be anyway.
Sure.
And there's always going to be winners out of anything. So all my old retirees that had their money in term deposits that haven't been doing anything for the last 3 years, they're starting to go, oh, that's good. Yeah. My property investors are starting to rub their hands together and saying, oh, this is pretty good. So it's just the market's going to inevitably be in someone's favor or not in your favor, but just sticking really to your basics, I think, is important.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. Yeah. So we've spoken about kind of the leasing side of it and structures. Is there, with your small business clients, is there a kind of an entry point beyond those two that they come to you for, and then they're kind of lifelong clients?
Yes, I guess, because we're a general practice. So if, say, someone like you came and saw us, we might do some terms and conditions. We might do some employment agreements for you. We might talk to you a little bit about your structure, get that sorted. And then I might say to you, Michael, do you have a will? You'll probably say no. Do you have powers of attorney, guardianships? I imagine you'll say no. We'll go, okay, let's sort those out. And then we'll leave you alone for a bit. And then you might say, actually, my business is going well. I want to buy a property. So you'll come and see us and we'll help you do that. Or actually, it's time to sell. So we tend to have these clients from a variety of reasons, but we do have consistent clients that that I know I've been there since the beginning, and it's just, this has popped up. What do I need to do? So I've got a consultancy agreement. Can you look over this? My lease is coming up. Can you look over this? Can you refresh my terms and conditions? I'm entering into this agreement. So they tend to be the like lifelong, and we might not hear from them. You might have 6 months where you're doing a lot for them, and then there might be a gap of a year and a half. And then sometimes it's not, with our clients, it might not be doing their commercial work or their business work. It's, look, unfortunately, mum's passed away. What do I do here? So that's part of being a general practice, is our lifelong clients tend to come because we don't have to move them on.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, just from a business point of view, probably just agreements would be, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. How should I do that? I've grown. I want to buy commercial premises. How do I do that?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of your existing client base, it sounds like you've got a fair few up there. So how do you, and we're touching a bit of marketing here. So how do you stay in contact, or is there a method of contact that you use to stay in contact with your clients, either at an individual level or at a bulk level?
Yes. So Turnbull Hill's quite committed to their marketing. We've got 2 digital marketers as part of our team. We're a bit unique as a organisation because we have quite a large operations team. So, but with marketing, there's and because, again, we've got different areas, we all market differently. So I like people. I like to go and invite people to events, meet up with them, have coffee, see how they're going, not necessarily with an agenda, but just, hey, how are you going? And I like to do that because I'm also, as a business owner, I find you get a lot of really good tips by talking to other business owners. So what have you done there? What's working? That sort of stuff. And also they tend to understand if you ever want to have a complaint, talk to another business owner. They'll get it. So I tend to do that. We hold seminars. We do a lot of emails. So our key thing is if it's valuable enough that you tell your brother, tell your client. So big changes
like
or
that
something.
One. I like that
so
one.
we don't want to flood people's inboxes with stuff that they don't care about. So basically, if there's been something that we think would significantly affect a good amount of people, we'll send an email about it. There's TV advertising. I don't participate in that because it's not my genre. We do radio, little spots on radio. So again, talking about wills, powers of attorney, guardianships, talking about commercial law for business, similar to this, but in radio. So we do articles through our website, content, try and keep them short and not too legalistic because otherwise no one but lawyers want to read it. So yeah, we do a wide variety of things, and because we have so many different personalities, different parts of marketing will suit. So I'm happy to give a seminar, but please don't make me write an article.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like because the marketing activity is so broad, I'm assuming there's different objectives, right? So we always talk about with our clients that, what do you want to achieve here? Is to get the phone ringing? Is it to get people jumping online to order your product? Is it just to stay top of mind? So what are the objectives? And it sounds like it's a mixed bag for you guys. What are the objectives for all of those activities that you do?
Okay, so there's the call to arms. So that's usually contested estates. I need to fight this will. So that's usually a one-off client. They have a pressing matter. Family law's a bit the same. I've got this, I'm in a crisis, I need help. Litigation can be a bit like that. And then you've got more of the relationship clients, which is my area, which is your properties, your commercial, your business, your estate planning, where you sort of want, you're going to have hopefully, if everything works, a longer engagement. And that is probably more top of mind. Because it's just remembering, you don't want someone to say, where did I go last time? Or who's my lawyer again? And so we've got things like buses, which is, again, just so our brand is out there, our name's out there. So we all do it a little bit differently.
Yeah. You mentioned that you may laugh when you said, I'm happy to run a seminar, but don't get me to write.
Article.
Write an article. Yeah. So, and that's something our consultants always talking about with our clients. So when we create a marketing plan, we say, okay, so as your consultant, do you want us to manage and do all this activity for you? Or are there some bits that you are happy to do yourself? I would say 95% of the time, clients don't want to touch any of it and happy for our consultants to manage and execute it themselves. But it's also asking them, what activity do you feel comfortable doing? So, for example, some clients wouldn't want their face on a podcast, but would be happy to behind the scenes and write an article. So, and some would be scared to stand up and run a seminar, but happy to write a search engine optimized article and publish it on their website. So it's about what they're also comfortable doing as well.
And I think it's for me, because I receive a lot of stuff, and you go and get a coffee and then you get an email that says rate your experience. And that I understand that that's needed, but I find that a bit annoying. So I think it's finding your strengths, but with marketing, which is not something that I've been a natural at or overly comfortable with over the years. But what I've found as a business owner is that whole, I do what I do well enough, I shouldn't need anything, is actually not true, because all that happens is the people that you can really help don't often find you. So I see now over the years the value of marketing.
Yep.
my basis has to be, if I'm going to write an article, which I do sometimes, it's going to be on something that I think is valuable. I struggle with write an article that has these Google AdWords in it, because, and I understand that there is a reason for that, and that makes them find your website, but it doesn't sit wonderfully with me. Whereas I feel like if I'm in front of someone, or if I'm talking, then I can kind of go, okay, well, what do you need to know? It's just, as long as the marketing to me is adding value, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
When I don't feel it adds value, I struggle with it a bit.
So to clarify for the listeners, what you were trying to explain there is that when you write, if you were to be asked to write an article about some topic in law, and that would be published on your website, the marketing team would get you to include certain key phrases or key words that potential clients or customers would type into Google to find you. So, for example, contract lease lawyer in Charlestown, for example. So that might get you to put that phrase into an article, and you're like, how the hell do I include that phrase, that ugly phrase, into an article? So just to explain to our listeners what that meant. Yeah.
And what because I've been doing this so long, is just terminology that is, I had explained to me, we talk about a family law separation, and that means a divorce. But people don't know that a family law separation means a divorce, which to me, I was like, well, of course you know that. And they're like, no. So terms that we use in the legal industry that is just so clear to us, other people have no idea. So when we do a podcast, or we do a video or something like that, we do it with someone who is not from a legal background, who goes, well, what is that? Well, I don't understand what that is. And it's really good, because we're so used to coming from a place of everyone knows what this means, and they're phrases we use that no one outside of the law uses. So I think that's where marketing, and that's where I think the consultant is good. You don't need, I'm good at being a lawyer. I'm not good, nor do I have any desire to be a marketer, except I can see as a business owner the importance, and I can kind of go, okay, well, I love a consultant. You go do this for me is one of the best phrases, I think, as a business owner, because you have to do so much yourself, particularly when you're starting out. You're trying to be your own accountant, you're trying to work out Xero, you're trying to work out a lease, you're trying to work supply agreements, and you're trying to build your business. It's tough. So those pearlers where you can go, can you go do this? And they do. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. They say that small business is easy. It's not.
It's the hardest thing, I got to say.
Yeah.
And it's also, when I became a business owner, I was surprised at how isolating it is, because you're surrounded by all these people that you knew before, and that are employees, but it's different. You're sort of you're the boss, and you can have a chat, but you can also realize after a while that, and I probably did it exactly the same when I was an employee, when people chat to you, they're chatting to you as a boss. There are things you can say, there are things you cannot say. So it can be quite an isolating experience. So that's why I like to go and talk to my clients that have small businesses, and just sometimes say, how are you going? And have a chat, because that was something I really appreciated when I started out.
For sure. We mentioned it in our intro and in these episodes, that you want small businesses to not feel like they're alone, right? Yeah. So everyone's going through the same battles, issues. You would have come across the same problems so many times. So it's not unusual, and people need to know that they have the support around them, like good lawyers or good marketing team or good accountants, and I think that's key. You need to surround yourself with a great team. Yeah. So whether it's marketers, lawyers, accountants, IT support, HR support, whatever it might be, you don't have all the answers as a business owner. You never do. You're not taught anywhere how to be a business owner, right? Yeah. So you're learning every day. We always say, don't be scared to ask questions or ask people around you in your network for advice or go have a coffee or whatever it might be. So
and the other thing I would say is if you can, try and talk to people outside of your industry. Because what I found was I had a group of women that were all from different, I got them from really different backgrounds so that there was no competition. And then it was a lot easier to open up about how your business is going, what's working or not. But the ability to have cross solutions. So there was a hairdresser that had an issue with a client that never came, that would always cancel their appointment. And her team were like, why do you let her do this? And she was like, I don't know. And then the baker pops up and goes, just when she books in, make her pay. And it was such a simple solution.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. And she did, and it worked. So sometimes I think we're so set in our ways as an industry of how this is how we do it as an industry, whereas kind of looking around to other industries and saying, well, you're right, the same problems pop up in business. It's just the industries are different. So if you look at a different industry, they often have a far better solution. Like I looked a lot, I'm not sporty, but with culture, I looked a lot to say the Swans and team culture and how they went through it a couple of years ago. And there's some really good articles just on building a positive team culture, because I was like, I know what law firms are like and I know what law firms have done that have worked and not worked, but I looked more to the sporting arena and they had some really good ideas about team culture, and they have rules.
Yeah.
And codes of conduct. And
don't they have a no dickhead policy, right?
Yeah, it is. And once I got my head around that, and then when it's awful, like the worst thing I've ever had to do in my business is to let an employee go. People think it's easy. It's
not.
It's heart-wrenching and awful, but sometimes you have to. And the way I like to think about it is, if they're not a right fit here, there'll be a right fit somewhere. So I'm helping them find their their right place.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't think about it like that, but I get that too.
Always tough conversations for sure.
Yeah, but once you if you do have someone who is a negative or a toxic sort of person, once they leave and everyone has this sigh of relief, and you're like, why did we put up with it for that long? Or why did we allow them to not? So I think, sport was a really good way of looking at what they do.
I think culture, I think when you start out in business, generally you think culture is a bit of a corporate term that doesn't mean much. But as your business evolves, you start to see the importance of it and the impact that people that don't fit the culture, even if you don't know what your culture is, don't fit the mood or the way, the workings of the business, the negative impact that it can have. So a bit of advice out of this is create a culture, create a vision, some values and mission for your business, and get your team involved in that as well, because you want buy-in from what you're trying to achieve as a business. So I know we went through that exercise a fair few years ago to create that, and it's about making sure that you maintain that and that everyone has buy-in on a regular basis to make sure that you're implementing and staying true to your vision and values. So
and that's what you tell your consultants. So once you know who you are and what your culture is, then when you go to, say, Little Marketing, you can go, this is who we are, and you can then portray them the way that they want to be portrayed. Same with recruiters. You go to them and you say, this is what we're looking for and this is who we are. It's really hard for someone to make you happy when you don't know what your business is or what your culture is.
For sure. There's an author, I don't know if you've heard him, Rani, Jim Collins. So he's written Good to Great, and he's written B 2.0. So the book B 2.0 takes you through a process to create your vision, values, and mission. So anyone listening that wants to, I guess, step-by-step guide to create that, then B 2.0 from Jim Collins, a great book. In terms of, let's talk business goals and personal goals. So I'm sure that dealing with your small business clients, their business goals and personal goals are intertwined. So I guess, what do you see as a key goal for people when they're running their business? Is it about an exit? Is it about tomorrow? Is it what's the key goals that they set? Or do they set any?
A lot of them don't. A lot of them come in young, enthusiastic. I've got this idea. I want to make it work. To be honest, I don't really ask them. I'm not a business coach, so I don't say, what's your, the only thing I will say is from the beginning of your business, think about how you exit it. So any structure I set up, anything that I'm like, because we get I had this guy in yesterday, he's an earth mover, and his business is basically him. So trying to explain to him that if you want to, and like dentists are a classic example. If all the value is in you and your name, what happens when you want to sell, or what happens when you want to retire? So I try and focus them that way. So if you, like Turnbull Hill is a brand. It was founded by Michael Hill. He long retired. Ross Turnbull, poor guy, passed away. But it's a brand. It's not the actual partners in it. So I think, and that's probably a marketing is of like, I would say the goal for your brand is really important. And what I tend to do is send people off. So I'm like, okay, do you have life insurance? Go see this person. Do you have an accountant? Go see this person. Do you know anything about marketing? No, go see this person. So it's kind of those sort of things. But a lot of grand ideas. I don't know how much planning or goals. Some do. The good ones do.
Yeah.
The good ones are pretty switched on. The ones that tend to do really well have worked in the industry,
Okay.
and now they're going out on their own. They tend to be cluey because if they've worked in a bigger place, because they've seen and they're like, we know we need to have these things.
So on that point, what is there a characteristic that you see in clients that are successful, like one or two characteristics, and then also characteristics that you see in people that aren't successful or haven't made it yet?
I would say the successful, they care, they're passionate, and they're humble. They will do anything that needs to be done.
Love it.
The ones that I found have, you're not meant to say failed, you're meant to say deferred success. But the ones that
they haven't reached their potential.
Yeah. The key characteristics are they're arrogant, they don't listen, and they think they're above it.
Yeah, nice. Good. Everyone listening out there, take the good characteristics. Great. That's great advice or good observations. You're obviously very successful in what you do, Rani. Is there anyone in particular that you thank for your success and being humble and asking for help?
I think, look, I was lucky to enter in with some really good work for some really good people that taught me good practices and had those characteristics. So I've got a pretty brutal family. So if I think I ever tried to have any heirs, I'd be knocked to the ground pretty quickly, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was lucky to find good practitioners that cared about what they did, and also that would call me out if ever I wasn't performing how I should.
We all need to kick up the bum, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Or actually, that this is yeah. So I think they probably this guy Andrew McDonald, Nicholas Dan, Warwick Gilbertson. They were kind to me as well, of saying this is actually how you do it, and so that was good.
Yeah, awesome. Honest, but well-directed feedback.
Yeah.
Any high or low moments in your career or in your business that stand out?
I think high moments of just when you can really help a client, regardless of the result, that you can just see that you've added value. That is always a high.
Yeah.
or you've got them what they need. I really like that.
Any good turnaround stories that you can share, maybe without giving names or businesses away?
It's going over a lot of years. I guess there was a couple of cases where wills were contested and they stood up, and I think that the right result was gotten. So that was one. I've got a soft spot for widowers, and I've got a soft spot for sort of elderly widowers. So where, they've just lost sometimes the most important person to them, and just being able to see that they're okay and say, look, you can do this, and this is what you need to do. I like that part of it. With business owners, when over the years there's been not a huge amount, but a couple that they're like, oh, we do this now, right? And I'm like, you've learnt, and that makes me pretty happy.
You're finally listening to me.
Well, they've always listened, but they're like, they get it, and it's like you've actually really engaged in the process, and I really like that.
Yeah, and you've had a positive impact on them and their business and their life, right?
Yeah.
People forget, again, on the intro, we talk about it's your business, but it's your life as well. People forget that business owners have their own family, their kids, their mortgage, their car, their holidays. Like it's just all one. It's another piece of the puzzle for their life. So if we talk about successful clients or hungry clients or driven clients, what do you think? And you probably have a few in the back of your mind as I give those descriptors, but what do you think makes them so hungry?
Just trying to think of a couple of examples. The examples that are coming to mind are ones that have been in the industry and haven't liked how things have gone, or gone, we can do this better. They're the really hungry ones, and they come out and they're just so focused, and probably because they're not trying to build this, they're trying to build their business skill base, but their actual professional skill base is pretty much set and good. They're the ones that are probably, or I've had quite a few clients that they've got a product and they're just completely passionate about their product. And they believe the world needs their product. They're also the ones that tend to just, push through all the pain barriers.
Yeah, the egg lady.
The egg lady. She's passionate.
That's so
and a
cool.
Brilliant product.
And so simple, right?
Yeah, and doesn't hard work though. I mean, her stories are awful. Like, kangaroo drowned a dog. There's foxes, there's eagles. I mean, life on the farm, it's brutal.
You must have. You've given a few examples about clients like in that agri space, earth movers, etc. Because of where you are. Plenty of those up there.
Yep. Yeah, and like the other girl that comes to mind is Alice, who's got Uprising, which is a bakery. And Alice will, when she was getting started, she started at just a market, and she would literally bake for 48 hours without sleep. And then, so just that complete passion. And the other thing that I found, and my favorite client, is a strong client. A client that will say no, and when you say this deal is no good, they will say no. That's my favorite client of all time.
Oh, they'll say no to you? Client.
They'll say no to the deal, or they'll say no to this is actually, and they will stand their ground.
Yeah.
They're the easiest client because you can actually, and you can say to them, no, that's reasonable, and they'll go, yep, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with clients saying no to me. They just need to, because it's their business.
Sure.
And they might go, no, actually, that doesn't work for us. But that's completely fine. So, the ones that are driven and they don't compromise on their core standard. If something's not right, it's like it doesn't go out. It's not right. They tend to be the really driven ones.
Yeah. And again, it's that culture we talk about, right? If it's not true to your vision and your values, then it doesn't meet the internal pub test, then it doesn't go, right?
True.
and being true to that and not compromising.
Yeah, I've got one client, he's an engineer, and he's just, and you're like, well, this says it. He's like, nope. And it's just like, and it's really good because you can go back with clear instructions and just say, and I've got quite a few clients like that, and they just, if it's not within their standard or it means something isn't going to be done right, they're like, no. And the majority of the time they get their way because they're very good at what they do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So being driven and true to your focus. So we're just finishing up. So are there kind of two kind of Rani points of wisdom for small business owners that we finish up that you could finish off with? Two kind of final pieces of advice for small business owners.
The first would be you need to take time to actively work on your business rather than in your business, and you should do that at least yearly. So look at everything, make sure everything is as it is, and take time to look at your business. And the second is probably is to have your standards and not be afraid to say no.
Love it.
But they're very. That's easy to say, but they are very hard things to do.
They are. They're a lot of work, but they have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Rani, thanks so much today. It's been a pleasure, and I've no doubt small business owners have got plenty out of today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just through probably our website. You can email me.
Yep.
Or call me. I'm traditional. I like a telephone. So all my information's on our website, which is turnbullhill.com.au.
All right, cool. And I'll put all your details in the show notes as well if you're happy with that. Rani, thank you, and you have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Just a reminder, to get even more out of today's episode, go to the show notes to find the link or visit littlemarketing.com.au where you can download a worksheet with the key points discussed in today's episode. This is so that you can make your own notes around some of the things discussed, get your marketing moving and start implementing. Again, thanks for listening and have a great day. Please note that all the information provided on this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to be specific advice to your individual situation. Please be sure to engage a professional for a customized approach to your business and personal circumstances.